And
Yeah.
Yes, you are all set. Mr. Secor, have a good meeting.
All right, thank you. All right, welcome to the Scituate Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee meeting. January 19th, 2022 at 6:31 p.m. So Governor Baker's declaration, due to Governor Baker's declaration of a public health emergency and the related emergency executive order dated March 12th, 2020, that has been extended until April 22nd, 2022. Several town of Scituate public meetings will meet remotely until further notice. This meeting will be recorded by Scituate Community Television and can be viewed live on Scituate Community Television Facebook Live. And the recorded meeting will be available the following day on Comcast Channel 9 and YouTube Scituate Community Television. With that, I would like to call the meeting to order. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so let's take the roll. Ms. Yassine,
Yes.
Ms. Galata,
Yes.
Select Person Kern. Oh,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
She does
Sorry,
not
Mom.
have to vote.
I'll
I'm
say
just kind of
yes
going
anyway.
around. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Six Tiger,
Yes.
Ms. Dre,
Yes.
Ms. Swope,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay. We'll be talking about this later, but to kind of kick things off, I am going to read, as I've read the past few meetings, I'm going to call it our Scituate DEI commitment statement. This is a safe, secure space for all people, especially people of color, and for all underrepresented people and communities. This is a space where people can bring up challenges and questions without fear. We will assume best intentions, and we will treat one another with politeness and respect at all times. This committee is dedicated to these standards. We want our members and others joining our meetings to feel welcomed and respected. Okay. As I said, we'll get into that more later when we talk about the recap of our presentation of initial recommendations to the select board, which occurred on December 21st. So we'll just table that for a minute. All right, so Ms. Yassine distributed the minutes at this point, probably several weeks ago at this point, since we did not meet last week as scheduled. Does anyone, has everyone had a chance to review any commentary? I don't have any commentary. I did review them. I thought they were spot on, but I don't always catch these things. Any comments? Okay. All right, I think we can go ahead and I will move to accept the minutes from the December 14th, 2021 meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, let's call the roll on that. Mr. Six Tiger,
Present.
Ms. Yassine,
Yes.
Ms. Galata,
Yes.
Ms. Dre,
Yes.
Ms. Swope,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay. All right, so let's jump into our liaison reports. Jamil Adams is not present tonight. He did send a note, I believe, to all of us. So I'll just kind of recap it. His update on the Freedom Team, he continues to move forward with that. They have a lawyer now, so they have a quote unquote complete team. So I think we're all eager to see where that goes from here. He mentioned unveiling themselves to the public and deciding on a date to do so. So hoping that he, certainly communicates that to us. I think we're all, I'm certainly curious. Can't wait to see it, to be honest. The website and everything else that he has planned for the Freedom Team, mirroring what he's done in other communities. So eagerly anticipated. And then probably should have led with this, but the Mlk Memorial was on Monday from, I think it was 1 to 3. And if you didn't have a chance to attend it in person, I mean, it was virtual, but it's now available it's on YouTube. Did that get shared? I think that Angela, you shared it with everybody, right?
I know.
Maybe that was just an email to me.
No, it's on
Okay.
Scituate TV, Facebook.
Yeah. So it's available in multiple ways. And I mean, it's worth watching. I mean, he did, I thanked him, and in Jamil fashion, he said it wasn't me, it's we. And it was pretty awesome. We had it on. I was kind of multitasking a bit, but I definitely tried to zero in as much as I could. I wish it was in person, like we all probably do, but he had, the kids, Angela and Dina were a highlight, obviously. They were awesome, but kids from every school participated, adults in the community, music, poems, artwork. It was fantastic, and hopefully the first of many.
Yeah, I agree. I think the kids stole the show. It was really
They did.
wonderful to see the presentations. Yeah, it was great. So catch the YouTube video, watch it if you haven't.
Right. And there was in that, I'm not sure. I can't speak to it because I didn't actually catch it, but there was a subsequent statement that went out from Superintendent Burkhead, and Jamil alluded to it as well in his note to all of us, that there were some content issues with some of the more, I think, adult presenters. I don't know if there's been any other repercussions to that or what have you. I don't necessarily, we don't really need to talk about it here, but I'm just making note that
Yeah, I think they
did happen.
removed them, Tom, from everything that's posted online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
Just because it was, I think, inappropriate content for a K through 12 audience, really? Yeah,
So,
that's my understanding.
okay. So yeah, I can't speak for Jamil with him. I'm sure he would have other updates. I will say, and I know he's busy. I did ask him, separately, and maybe I'll talk to him offline. He discussed in the last meeting, those of us that have kids that are still in school, and I think looking around the dial here, I don't think any of you do, but Michelle Crawford stepping down as the MECO director is kind of a big deal. I'm just curious, and again, this probably is not the place to bring it up, but I am curious what prompted that, and whether it's just Michelle, looking to the next phase in her career, or whether there was something town related. I hope that's not the case, but
Did you just give her notice through year end? Because that happens a lot, Tom. Staff will give notice in January for year end transitions, but I'm not aware of.
she gave her notice. He announced it at our last meeting, and I think she was gonna stay with Scituate through the first couple of weeks in January.
Okay.
And so there's an interim MECO director now, who I believe is someone that has worked with Jamil in the past and has helped him with some of the, like the lit events and so forth that he's put together for the schools. But I don't know the gentleman personally, so.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Ruth, Stride.
Thank you. Yeah, again, ScituateStride.org. Our December meeting was on the Indigenous peoples issues about land acknowledgements, Indigenous Peoples Day, and discussing, what's happening with town seals really across the Commonwealth. They are posting more information on their website, and would still like more people, if people are interested in being involved in what we can do in Scituate around Indigenous peoples issues, please do contact Scituate Stride. And again, probably their website is the best place to be able to email. We do have a announcement, a statement about the MLK meeting. And again, it was probably over 200 people were on Zoom watching that. That was really impressive. It says the Stride Steering Committee would like to acknowledge and thank Jamil Adams and his team for presenting the first Martin Luther King Day Junior celebration. It was inspiring to see the multidisciplinary collaboration across all grade levels and schools, giving voice to our Boston students via their poetry and hearing from community members on what Dr. King meant to them is important and thought-provoking. While some of the content may not have been appropriate for all ages, the messages and life experiences of those authors, presenters were important to hear. We look forward to future events with more finely tuned messaging. We believe that the day was a building block to successful future events, and we appreciate all that Mr. Adams has done to amplify marginalized voices in our community. So that's the Stride update.
Nice.
Well done. Question on what Stride is doing with Indigenous peoples. It's an area that we haven't. We've got one or two entries, in our opportunities workbook, but we admittedly haven't really kind of moved the needle as a committee and talked all that much about it here. I'm trying to understand, how do we, is this a situation where Stride can do, legwork on an issue and then come to us because we have the pathway into the select board and the town to affect change?
And that's exactly what we're trying to figure out also. We also had a very good meeting with Steve Sweat and Megan Gregory. Steve is the Scituate department head and Megan is the K-5, I think, literacy coordinator, because of things that they're looking at also within the Scituate public schools. And I think a lot of it is trying to get your arms around what do you do, how can you do it? So I think they would very much like for us, somebody in the community to move things along that they can embrace and then they can then use to help develop further curriculum and understanding. We gave them some interesting, reference information that we have. So we kind of passed on information that we've got. They're going to be back in touch with us. Again, part of what we need to do is how to develop more community support for these issues, because I think it being just one or two people is not enough. So I think going forward, it's going to be developing, Stride is going to develop its own land acknowledgement, just to go through that process to see, how does one pull this all together, then gain more community support for what would we do in Scituate. So I think Stride is taking that on. Need more people. The bottom line with all of this is more people, because we as a committee in Scituate DEI committee do not pull all this together. We gather information that people get for us, but I think anytime we can encourage community support, like we have done with some of our other issues, but I don't think it's our committee's job to pull it all together. I think that we need to have that outside community support, or at least that's my view, unless somebody has another view.
probably depends on the issue, you know, I mean, you look at,
Well, exactly. I think some things we've done really well on. Look at the bathrooms.
exactly,
That was awesome. But
Right.
that, I will say though, that was a community member's suggestion. That was great in their beginning meetings.
was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No shame in where we get the, you know,
Absolutely.
the idea, right? So more ideas, the better. And then it's our job to vet them and see.
but if
how it
anybody
fits
has
into our
insight on
charge.
how to move this forward, you know, I'm working with Stride with this. And they would be very interested in any thoughts that people have on how we can move this forward. It's kind of, again, a slow burn, but it's not going away. But it is something we would like to keep moving forward. We've done a lot of research on what other towns are doing.
Okay.
Does it make sense? I know, and going back a few months, we talked about subcommittees. Does it make sense to establish a subcommittee? You know, where, you know, 1 or 2 members of the DEI can work with, like you said, members of, you know, the community to help push some of the, you know, push that effort along.
Again, if anybody would like to join me with this, I would love it. Because I've already pushed myself, so.
Okay.
I would join you on creating a subcommittee, Ruth.
Okay, thank you, Angela. That's awesome.
Okay, great. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Maura, Select Board.
Hi.
Hello.
So, Tom, do you want, okay, I was just thinking of what, I wanted to update you that last night we did decide, but I know you're gonna give the group an update as to your presentation to the Select Board, which was excellent 2 weeks ago. And we did agree last night to put it back on the agenda at our next meeting so we can finalize approval of the commitment statement. So that'll be on our next agenda, just because a couple of members wanted to take just a look at the language.
Right.
I don't suspect that it will change. Sometimes people just like to absorb things, you know, before they approve. So that'll be on the next agenda. And then just to, you know, Ruth and I were kind of talking about this earlier before everybody jumped on, you know, we are back in a Zoom meeting environment. Our COVID numbers in Scituate have been pretty high. You know, we had 110 cases this past week and 494 cases in the last 2 weeks in Scituate. So it hasn't subsided here yet. However, we, you know, will continue just to follow the state guidelines. So we're recommending masks, but we're not requiring them in any public facilities, but highly recommended. We're going to stay that course with following the state guidelines and use that as our guide for our COVID policies, if you will. Other than that, last night's meeting was pretty rote. You know, we're in budget time again, so that's really what 50% of all our meetings surround reviewing budgets. And that's really all. There's really not a ton of new, I'm just looking through my notes, not a ton of new things to report, really, because it is predominantly about budgets. I'm trying to think of anything else here that we may have talked about that would be DEI related, and I don't see anything. So that's the update. Short and
Okay.
sweet.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ruth.
Welcome.
Maura, I'm thrilled that we're getting back on the agenda for the Select Board to discuss and hopefully approve a commitment statement. But one of our asks also is that commitment statement information is kind of passed on to other committees
Understood.
that we have. Again, how will that be done? We didn't really stipulate how that would be done. And
Well, I think what we would do, and we'll probably talk about it next week when we do speak about that, you know, there was some commentary about actually even posting the commitment, right? Having
That's right.
printed materials in all of the larger meeting rooms, as well as we would then, if we pass this in the next meeting, communicate that out to all the chairs of the various committees and provide the statement and, require them to read them at the start of their meetings. That would be my recommendation. So we certainly have all that, we appoint all of these committees. We obviously, the planning board doesn't roll up to us, but I'm sure that they would accommodate it. So we'll make sure we share it with everybody. I don't foresee any issues with that.
That sounds great, Maura. Are the schools not under your purview? So
Correct.
that would be something, if we were interested in moving this towards schools, that we would need to take this, in a,
Yep. And we can-
again, we're not also.
Yeah, I
advising
don't
the
think we
schools
have to
either,
put
but-
that on your plate. We can send it over to the chair and the superintendent over there and tell them that, this is the action that the town side of meetings are taking, and maybe they'll follow suit, or maybe they'll come up with one that's more appropriate for their audience. I'm not sure. So we can take that on too, Ruth. We can,
That'd be awesome. Thank you,
Yeah.
Maura. I appreciate it.
yeah, no, we'll do that. Make a note.
Great. Okay. So recap of the select board meeting, which was December 21st. And
God, I
it
feel like it was 2 weeks ago.
feels to me like it was 3 months ago, but it depends on how your days go, I guess. It was right before the holidays, and we were all, I'm sure, very grateful that we were able to sneak into the agenda and actually do it in person, which was kind of fun. For Angela, Ruth, and myself, we're all there in person. And the select board, Jim Bedreau, everybody was very gracious. I should not forget Bob. Bob was there. He was at the table with Angela and myself as well. So I don't know. I mean, I thought it went great. It was, I think a good experience for our committee to get in front of the select board. I think 4 out of the 5 select board members were in attendance. Select person Goodrich, I believe, was the only one that was not. And everything was well received. Great questions from everybody on the select board. I felt like we were able to field those questions, with the obvious highlights being that we were able to get the gender neutral bathrooms approved and on its way. So, I mean, huge kudos to everybody that played such a huge part in that on the committee. And then the commitment statement that we just talked about. So, I mean, those were the 2 key recommendations, as we all know, from the PowerPoint deck and all the work that went into those, and then touched on kind of cherry picked, 2 other opportunities that we're working on around mandatory training and the sister city for Cape Verde. So again, I think the select board was great. Obviously, thank you, Maura, especially for kind of making it smooth and frankly pretty easy to go through. So I think we have a template going forward with how to do this, and hopefully we'll be able to do it with more frequency than we have in the past, or thus far, I should say. And it's out there for your viewing pleasure if you haven't seen it and want to see us in action. It's very exciting.
You guys did a great job.
Thank you. Anything on any of that from anyone? Questions, commentary? Okay.
Tom, quick question. Anything
Yeah.
additional that the select board is looking for? Like, did we get any clues around, additional topics or, presentation style, et cetera? Sounds like it was very well received, but just wondering if there's any feedback that we want to incorporate next time.
I'd have to ask more of that question. We didn't get any in the meeting. They were all very positive. And it was also nice that we were early in the meeting docket. So whoever played a hand in that, that was cool. We didn't have to sit in the room for 2.5 hours, like Maura has to. But no, I don't know. I don't know, Maura, if there's any
No, I
recommendations.
don't. I think what was really appreciated was the organization of the presentation. You know, it was very concise, it was very easy, you know, you all worked very hard to make sure that it was clear. So it was very direct, and that was great because we had some clear actionable items. And I think that's always important. Sometimes folks come in front of us and it's a ton of information, but not any, you know, next steps, which you all clearly put together really well. So I think the board really appreciated that. And I would recommend that we keep looking at that. And I call it low hanging fruit, right? You know, like the restroom signs. They're all very excited about the sister city. So I think any aspect or any addition, any help that we need to keep that going, Angela, I think would be great. I think that would be so wonderful for our community. But no, I don't have anything. They didn't have any recommendations other than just to keep on going. You know, I think they appreciated all the questions and information that you included. Because I think, you know, at the onsite, I'll be honest, I'm sure they were a little apprehensive with the group going out and meeting with all the departments, and you've all been so professional. This is just a really great group. So no issues to my knowledge, and no suggested recommended changes at this juncture.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Elena has her hand raised.
Oh, that was just the like,
clap?
clapping. No, I mean, I watched the recording and it was really inspiring and awesome. I know I'm new to the committee, so it was just, and I wasn't around for the first presentation, so I just thought it was incredible. I think we'll probably talk about this, but I'm definitely curious for next steps on like the training portion. There was a lot of good discussion around that topic. And I know Bob's not here, but I definitely want to help as much as I can move that forward. But I'm a little unclear on like the how. So I'm sure we'll talk about it though now or today.
We will. I can't
Yeah.
promise. Let's get into it then. I'm going to share. I did make some updates. I didn't share it to the workbook. I literally just moved stuff around. So I'm just being honest with you. It felt nice to actually move things to the. Can you guys all see the spreadsheet?
Yes.
You guys can see the spreadsheet.
Yes, we see it.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. It was nice to be able to move things into the recommendations tab. So I'll just leave it at that. It felt like a accomplishment. So I didn't do much else here. Honestly, you know, there was that holiday gap and I took a break, hopefully like a lot of the rest of you did. So I don't think, unless there have been other meetings and discussions amongst committee members and departments or what have you over the last couple of weeks, we probably don't have a lot of updates tonight. So yeah, I think the focus should be, as always, if there's ideas that we haven't talked about in past meetings, let's get them in here. The more ideas we have, the more things we can vet, the better, certainly. But training, Cape Verde, I think those are the two next ones that we've kind of talked about, right? And how do we get from we kind of know the what, and then now it's the how. How do we kind of push the ball forward with both of those? So under in-flight project. So all right, so let's just touch on both of these. Might as well take it from the top. And then Ruth, you might have an update. And again, I'm sorry, I have not been able to look at your DPW spreadsheet. I know you just gave me access to it like in the last hour or so, but I do intend to look at that. So Sister City. Time to focus on that. And I guess where I'm a little unclear, not to put not to put you on the spot, Angela, but, and maybe we should, you know, just schedule another meeting or talk offline or what have you, but how do we get it from A to B? B meaning, how do we get this thing rolling? Because I think everybody wants to do it, you know. The select board, they Karen Cantwell, Tony, everybody's, they kind of lit up when we told them this was going to be something that we wanted to do.
Yeah, I think, you know, I need to just go over the forms that the chairwomen gave us from the current sister cities, and what it needs to be presented to the board. So I guess we would present that to the board, and if they approve, then they would establish committee and take applications for people to be on that committee. So I just need to, you know, get some time and just look over that, and, you know, Tom, you and I can talk, and, you know, but I think that would be the next step. What exactly needs to be presented to the board that we would be doing as the DI committee, and then they would, once approved, go through the normal steps that they would do for any other committee.
Yeah, and just for timing purposes,
Mhm.
we usually start to appoint new members to committees in the, you know, June, July timeframe, May, June. So we might want to keep that on our radar so we don't miss another year of trying to put a committee together. And I don't think you have to wait for a quarterly review to bring forth your proposal. Like, you can come in at any time when you're ready, Angela and Tom, and so we can, you know, vote and determine to start to create it. And then Lorraine will work with you to put out a description of what the committee will be doing, and
Yep.
we'll bring in some applicants and some volunteers and get it going.
Great, yeah, I've already got people say that they will apply to be on the committee. So that's great.
So I love deadlines.
That's
So
why I gave you that.
yeah, thank you. So how do we back into, so June, July is when you would appoint committee members. So we would need to have the committee established 2 months before then, by March 15th. Do you have a steer on that?
Maybe April.
April, okay.
Yeah, 'cause I don't think you're gonna get a lot of pushback. I mean, March would be great if you can do that. I guess, you know, just to get things done sooner, because we will run into town meeting in the beginning of April, so
So
Yeah.
we present this to one of the select board meetings in March.
Angela, can you talk a little louder, because somehow I'm not hearing you?
You know, I have a mic that is unplugged from my computer.
Can anybody else hear Angela, or is it only me?
no, I can't hear her either.
Okay, because sometimes I think it's my computer. Kind
I
of
think-
went off.
I think she has some audio issues.
Sometimes it's good to know, because sometimes I think it's only me, and it's like, wait a minute. We don't hear you.
You don't hear me at all.
Yeah, there now, that's better.
Can you
That's
hear me
better.
now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I get what, I forget what I was saying. If we were to present this to the select board in March, would that be a good time? Would
I
that
think
work
so.
with?
Just
Okay,
let me know when you're ready. We'll get in touch with Lorraine, or you can reach out to Lorraine directly and she'll get you on the agenda.
Okay,
okay, so Angela, I'll shoot you a note offline and see when you and I can get together
okay, sounds good.
and work through this stuff. Okay, cool. All right, next up, let's talk about training. There's been a lot of information kind of shared and so forth, and you know, Bob had great information, Elena, yourself, Kate. So we've got, I think we've got good, you know, some good momentum. Obviously that momentum was blunted a little bit by the holiday. So, yeah, I mean, next steps there. I think we really need Bob for this, but I don't know, what do you recommend? I mean, we could obviously get another meeting on the books and talk about whether I think Elena, you had mentioned potentially piloting a program, which I think is great.
Yeah, I mean, I think like based on what I heard in the select board meeting and then the few emails, right? Their local gov, that's the,
Yeah,
right? Local gov, there, it's free for Scituate town employees. And there are DEI focused trainings that are now available in the platform. I think kind of like thanks to Bob's feedback to our insurance provider potentially, who then passed the feedback along. I think if I'm remembering from the email.
that's right.
So those are online self-driven trainings that he could ask, I think, town employees to do. But that does not really address the issues that we talked about where we have town employees that don't have regular access to computers, access to personal email addresses, et cetera. So then there's also this KSA Dynamics provider, excuse me, that I think Bob has either worked with before, or maybe we've worked with, like Scituate has worked with before, that could run a pilot for us. And that would be a lot like an in-person session. From what just from what I'm understanding, we probably do need Bob here.
Do you guys see the PowerPoint now?
Still the Excel.
Okay.
Just the Excel, yep.
You can keep talking. I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like trying to decide which path forward is the best to start with. I think Ruth we all had shared that like just having online DEI trainings isn't always like the best experience, and doing things in person live tends to have a greater impact on an individual's like experience through the training, right? But there is cost associated with the KSA Dynamics training, while the local GovU is free. And we're still only talking about town employees right now, right? I think longer term, we'd love to also extend it to like all committee members as well, but I think we're focusing first on town employees.
Right.
I guess that's just a summary. I don't know if I have an opinion yet, but
I think that was a really good summary.
okay.
I think you really hit it on. I think perhaps another meeting with Bob to sort of think about, one question is budget, right? Given the cost for KSA, what's in the current budget, and one proposal might be an increase in the training budget, as far as the select board. We did also talk about the possibility of tablets that could be rented out or set up for employees that didn't have access to computers, perhaps at the senior center or at the library. And so that could be one way to work around an online free training program for employees that maybe don't have an email address or access to a device. I wonder also, if we start planning now for an in-person training in the spring or summer when the weather is better, as a way to sort of circumvent the COVID waves. We do an outdoor training, might take a little work, et cetera, but thinking about if we wanted to pick maybe one training that KSA does that we feel would be very impactful in person, and try to make an in-person training a little bit more COVID proof.
Yeah.
Some sort of planning and something outside, or, in an awning, et cetera, with a lot more breeze might be a possibility as well. I'm curious about the laptops or the tablets that could be either set up or rented out as needed, so that town employees could access online trainings.
Yeah.
And the budgets, the budgets run through what date, Maura? So for example, if they had a $5,000 training budget for the town or something, just to throw out a number.
Oh, sure. Our fiscal calendar is July 1st to June 30th. So right now we're evaluating funds to be approved at town meeting that would be available July 1st. And usually at the end of the budget cycle, we get a little bit closer to firmer actual numbers from the state. So sometimes available monies do come up, and Jim may say, hey, our cherry sheet came down and we've got $200,000 additional dollars to allocate. Doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it does. And I know training is top of mind for me, so I will make sure that we take a look at that and see what we can set aside. But Bob didn't really indicate that he thought financing the training was too much of an issue. And I like your idea of an open one. So an open training, that would be nice to do as well. But yeah, long answer to a short question. July 1 to June 30th.
When you say open training, you mean live, like an in-person training?
Yeah.
Over virtual? Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing too is when we're talking to Bob, he can always check with our IT director, Mike Minichiello, because I think they're doing some new laptop introduction, renewals, if you will, refurbs, I don't know. So there may be, some equipment that could be, checked out or rented out. I don't know. That might be an option to look at, Kate, to your point. So I think when we're talking to Bob about this, let's see if he can check with our IT director about the potential of using those types of resources, if they're available. I don't know.
I mean, tablets are not like a Samsung tablet could be $100 or $150. So I don't know, I think it could be manageable. I don't know what budget he's working with or we're working with. Just to call out for the KSI Dynamics, I just was referring to Bob, my notes. It is a recorded webinar that would play live. So just thinking through putting that outside, like just so it's, and they maybe they do offer more interactive trainings, but I think what the prices that you see here is for a recorded training that would be played live in person. Yeah. So I think likely inside, unless we get real fancy with a outdoor Wi-Fi and projector screen. But I think Bob I'm happy to also help facilitate. I'm no professional by any means, but I have helped facilitate DEI trainings at my job. I'd be happy to help. Maybe Bob could be happy to help with his extensive HR background. So even though it's a recorded session, we can incorporate some sort of live discussion or live element to it, right? So it's not just pressing play. And make it a little bit more interactive, but it's not going to be like that hands-on training experience with an actual trainer there in person, at least from this first price package that they provided us.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you think we could trial the training? By that I mean, could we? Not with an in-person live situation, but we could certainly, I would think. Local GovU is free, right? So we could just pick a training, bias and blind spots, for example, and evaluate that type of training from local GovU, from KSA Dynamics, and maybe one other vendor. Free, low cost, medium cost. And based on that, see what we recommend. Or if there's somebody from the outside that can come in and help us recommend that is more of an expert in terms of training and what have you, it's at least an idea. I don't know.
Bob, do you mean us, this committee go through the training, or a set of town employees go through the training to pilot it?
Maybe us.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess
not maybe us. I was thinking us. Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I have done one of the trainings that was offered. Unfortunately, there was a lot of glitches. I couldn't actually be on the live webinar as it happened. So they have a recorded link that you can get later. They wouldn't send me the recorded link till 3 of them had gone by. I ended up getting through 3/4 of one. And it gave a lot of very good information, but it was quite long. And because you're not live, you're not part of that webinar. You did not you could not interact at all. I did not make it through the whole first one, nor did I go on to watch the other two. I don't know if this was local GovU. I think it was something else. So I think the bottom line is, talking with Bob and you guys having a meeting where you think, what's the most realistic ones? And I think he's saying some things are already being done. Is that true, Maura? Do you know if any trainings have already been done?
I mean, according to Bob, he said there have, but I don't know who's
Right,
taken
because this
them,
is something
so-
that I had been given through them, through his office. So this was a while ago. I'm sure I could dig it all out, but it never kind of came up again as I wasn't even sure how I got it, but it was sent to me as well. Maybe because we discussed it and he put me on a distribution list.
So maybe we put together, what he has offered to date. If he can tell us how many employees have taken it, if at all, right? And then move there and identify what makes sense, So for instance, unconscious bias usually seems to be like one of the first entry level sessions in my experience.
Yeah.
And I think it's a pretty eye-opening entry level training. So maybe that's already out there. I don't know, but say it is, right? How many people have taken it? Then we can identify, well, if you've taken that, then we recommend, X for step 2.
Yeah, it'd be like a
We-
learning path in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a curriculum.
Well, do we have any way to evaluate people's responses to this training? Those of you who are in business, do you have some sort of format?
I just
I
filled
see
out.
Elena
a
saying
survey.
yes, and I love that because that I
filled
think
out
is what we need to
a
do.
survey today. I took a training yesterday on inclusive language. That was awesome. And it was like super practical. Like instead of saying, hey guys, you should, hey folks, just like very practical advice. And I got a survey right after the training to fill out. It was on a Microsoft form. So like we could create like a SurveyMonkey Google form or something like that. I definitely think we should. Especially
That's it. I think if we're going to do things and try out different things, I don't think we get it all right all the first time, but if we're going to look at something, then we should be able to get some feedback
yeah, we
on
shouldn't
how this
strive
goes
to
before
get
we
it right.
move ahead more.
Yeah, agreed, Ruth.
Okay. Cool. There's a lot to talk about here. All right, so I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to figure out here. So, from an action item, I should say, another meeting with Bob to just hammer him with all this stuff. The poor guy. Hey, look, he's engaged. He's already making things happen. I mean, the fact that he was able to, work with local GovU and the insurance company and got them to release additional trainings is fantastic. So, he's our guy, and he'll have a good pulse, on the town departments and so forth and the employees. I think as to what's going to be palatable, right? Because I mean, as you were talking, Ruth, I was thinking, all right, so because we have to think about time, right? I mean, is it an hour course? Is it a 4-hour course? Is it a day? We have to figure out what's going to work here, right?
Yeah, and I
So-
think I would love to pilot one. Like I would like to take a training, whatever training we recommend. I feel like I would want to take it first to have any confidence in the recommendation.
That's where I'm going. Yeah. That's what I was thinking with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a great idea.
We all don't have to do it, but I mean, a couple of us could do it and just have a very honest discussion and say, yeah, this one is killer. This one, not so much. So.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else on the training topic? Okay. Anything else that we want to touch on in the existing opportunities workbook? Let me just reshare that. Ruth, not to put you on the spot, do you want to get into any of the DPW? I know you were doing some work on it and.
Right,
yeah.
well, I think that just kind of circling back and around, we've had these discussions with really 3 different groups and have come back with our feelings about them, but then what do we do with this information? So I was on the group both for DPW and the one for police, and I circled back around to DPW because I think that for us is the easiest one to kind of get a bit of a handle on. I think the problem is that it's hard to get people's bandwidth because I need somebody to review that information. So the notes are the notes that were sent out to DPW. DPW had a comment, there was some wording they would appreciate changing, which we've changed. So the notes are the notes. But then recommendations, and really what it looks as though for what we were talking about among ourselves, there was Celia also, is that we had recommendations at the time and then afterwards for DPW. Now, keeping in mind, we are not an advisory committee to the DPW. We can give any comments we want to give, but that is not our role. But we did have suggestions. Then there are some other suggestions that would go to the select board. And I take these very seriously. I think that for us to give suggestions to anybody else is very serious. And it's easy to come off as, well, we know better than you, when these are departments who are running and doing a fantastic job for our town. So before we recommend anything, I would like significant review. However, I'd like a bit of review before we even give it to the full board. Because of that, I've given it to Celia. Still says she may have time soon to look at it, to Tom and to Angela, because that's as far as we can go without it being a full board quorum thing. Because I'd like to kind of like have one round through with that to make sure things look kind of reasonable. And then the full board review of our full committee review to see if these are recommendations we'd like to go forward with.
Got it. All right.
And then
So-
after that, I'd like to go with the police department with that also. And then Tom, I don't know what you guys plan on your facts. And I think there's going to be some dovetailing, especially with the facts, etc. I even wonder, because on all of them, or at least the 2 I've worked on, there's been increased communication through web and social media. And there may be some
What
kind
do you
of
mean by
common
that?
things, threads that kind of come out.
What do you mean by that? Increased web social media?
Well, like we've suggested that, let's say with DPW, one of the suggestions is that there are people who do not feel they know what's going on. The DPW gives out information through the Mariner. They do sometimes put stuff on social media. I have seen postings on social media of a road closing or an update for what's going to happen with the pipes. They're doing new things. So these things are getting out, but then people see it once and then they don't know what's going on. And if you go to the DPW website, I found it very challenging to navigate the website. If I wanted to find all the road closings in the next 3 months, okay, not now because they're not doing it, but when they were in the summer, when you're doing road closings because you're doing new paving, that's really challenging to find. How are things chosen? People have complained about not knowing, oh, this road's being done and not our road, or this water is being done and not our water. Well, how are those choices being made? I think that could be better highlighted on their website. But I think that from my view of it, and that's why I'd like it reviewed by others, I don't find it easy to navigate. I don't find it easy to find. And that's not really just the DPW's issue. That's an overall issue of the web design itself, because it's a very standardized format that all departments and committees, I have the exact same format for this committee. And we post a lot less than they do.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's an age-old, communication is an age-old challenge for us.
And yet so much of what we
Agreed.
talk about for diversity and inclusion is about communication.
Yeah.
How can we increase communication among our general population and then target populations?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's true. I mean, I don't think until I got involved with this committee, I don't think I even realized how much communication I could get by signing up for different mailing lists,
Mm-hmm.
which I did. And now I actually feel fairly informed. I should probably go look again and sign up for more. Because I do. I get town emails pretty much every day, and they're useful.
Mhm.
You know, it's not junk. So
I think a project on communication is a great idea. My company, we're doing DI work, and one of the line items is actually in communication, to make sure that it's, there is equitable access to communication. So thinking about the ways in which we communicate, does the website have the ability to translate into other languages? ASL, Braille, etc. Just sort of thinking, and then I think in addition, right, communication and knowledge is power. So thinking about how this type of stuff gets out there. I agree with you, Tom. I've signed up for Scituate, emails or alerts, whatever it is, and I get messages all the time that I don't think everyone does.
absolutely.
They always come in English, and I'm guessing that's a dominant language in the town. But thinking about, could you have the option to sign up for alerts in other languages, or what does that kind of look like for the town? But I think communication as a line item, and then seeing where it goes, whether it's based on email blasts or website access or limited English proficiency plans, depending on what that looks like for the town, that might be an interesting DEI section.
Cool. A new idea. I love it. Okay. All right. I'm gonna add that. So I'll let it row for that under opportunities for us to further vet.
And I wonder if that, I love that about the access and having it, coming under the equitable sort of umbrella. The Commission on Disabilities has a small budget. It's always hard to find dollars to support some of this. So I wonder if we speak to them at all, if they have any dollar. I don't know that they spend their budget every year. And I have no idea how much it would cost to implement some of these things, but keep in mind that, I don't know, I think we kind of cross over there with the Commission on Disabilities as well, for the access aspect of what you're talking about.
Maura, can I ask, how does the town website, how was that put together? How is that, whose purview is that?
Well, I think Seth runs the backbone. Actually, I think it's a combination of Seth, the IT department. It's pretty much relegated to all the department heads. It's up to them. It's up to the committee chairs to update. They're given, a very brief tutorial like you were, Ruth. And
It was
I
very
think
brief,
that-
but
yes.
the issue is more the functionality of the site itself.
That's, I think, Seth and the IT department. I know it wasn't always that format. And, Seth can speak to that better than I. But where I was going is that it seems to be a very it's up to the individual chair and department to make sure that they're putting the information up there, to make sure that it's updated, taking down outdated information, but also maybe there's some easy recommendations for communication that can go to, I think Lorraine manages our Facebook postings, and maybe it's a quarterly blast that says, hey, don't forget to sign up for townwide emails so you can find out about XYZ, and just push out. We've always had a challenge pushing information out. It's always been tough.
And I think the issue is that we need to do all of it. So we need to push that information out on a regular basis. But then we also need to be able to find information when you want to find it.
Mhm.
And I don't know, again, it's my ignorance. I don't know if it's that the websites are not robust enough to contain this information and organize it well, or if it's that we as users, the people who put it on, we are not trained enough well to use it well. But it does not have, it's not easy to navigate to find information that you'd like.
Or
And
a
I don't know
combination
exactly
thereof.
why that is.
Right, yeah, it could be a combination of both. Well, maybe one of the action items of the communication segment is to, meet with Seth and determine what our options are. I don't know what kind of investment we have in it, Ruth, so I think we'd have to take a look at all of that.
Maura, can I ask a question? So looking just at mass.gov, Commission on Disability. So it looks like the state of Massachusetts has a representative. Perhaps we can see if they could join a meeting and tell us a little bit more about what they do. There's also an option to establish a Commission on Disability in your city or town. Does Scituate have one currently?
Yes,
Yeah.
and I know the
Yep.
person who's the chair of that's Megan Summer, and they are active.
They're very active.
Okay. Perhaps that could either we set up a smaller meeting with them and or have them do a presentation at a full board meeting to learn a little bit more about the work that they're doing and see how this might dovetail into communication.
Mhm. Yeah,
So Ruth, Megan.
I can definitely ask her. So Tom will talk about when you'd like that to happen. And
Well, maybe a discussion first to just kind of
Okay.
just kick around some ideas. If there's different ways that we can help them and vice versa.
great, she would love that.
Yeah, I don't know her. I've heard great things about her. I don't know where from.
Everything you
but
heard
the,
is
the
true.
name. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Is she part of Stride? That's right. Okay. All right. Cool.
And she is one of the members of the Freedom Team. She is a licensed social worker.
Okay.
Oh, we definitely have to talk to her.
She's a triple threat.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. Love it. Okay. Fantastic. I think that gives us some good marching orders. Anything else people want to dive into tonight? Our next meeting is a pretty quick turnaround, so 3 weeks, right? So February 8th is our next meeting. Any other business comments? Anything that anyone wants to bring up tonight?
Mr. Secor, you are still sharing your screen.
I always do that. Yes. Inconsistent.
One question I have, I hate to bring this up because it sounds like a whole bunch more work, but where are we as far as, more data collection? So with the local, departments that we identified or with the community at large, just sort of wondering what next steps on that might look like. But again, that's a very big project, and I think we've got a number of in-flight projects going. So I'm not necessarily saying that we should push that to the forefront, but just wanting to have another touchstone on, do we continue with our current identified departments? Do we move down to that second tier of departments that we want to talk to? If and when would we reach out to residents at large?
So yeah, so residents at large, I think we could talk about ideas around data collection pertaining to that. I feel that we could probably get something like that done maybe a bit easier than diving down into the next tier of departments. I don't know what that data collection would look like, but whether if we want to do another survey or something like that. But the first part of your question, I mean, my gut says, Ruth is really starting to zero in on DPW, and then police are going to follow. I think recommendations out of both of those will probably make their way in here in a more tangible way that will probably keep us pretty occupied, I would say probably for the next couple months before we jump down into some of the other town departments. Now, if there's a specific town department that we think is on fire as it relates to DEI, and we need to like shift gears, and as a committee we want to bring that and raise that in priority, then let's talk about that. Because I don't know. I mean, that could be the case. So those are just my thoughts. I mean,
Because my question would be, are there people who would like to develop questions to go to a different town department and then kind of carry that through? Because that's what happened last time, is we developed questions and then divvied up, and then people went. I don't know if we'd be going anymore or rather Zooming. Things seem to be kind of closed up again. But if again, I think if somebody has an interest, a lot of different areas were identified. I know the Cultural Council was one, Recreation was one. I mean, if somebody wants to kind of run with this and develop
the
some
library.
questions, that'd be awesome, I think. So a lot of it's kind of what I consider RAM. Do people have the ability to take this on and start developing now? And again, come back to the committee, get things approved that, yeah, that's looking good. Yeah, we feel good about that. Go with it. I mean, I think that that's doable. Tom, what do you think?
Because I do forget, you know, who joined when, right? And
Right, there's a lot of people who weren't through that first round, so.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, I feel like Kate, you've been with us since day one, but then I remember you haven't. But
Yeah, Kate, Elena, and Jim, you know, none of them were here for that first
Elena
round.
and
So.
Jim, definitely, because I knew they were after Kate, but I am aware of that part. But yeah, so we did talk very early on. We said, okay, what are the first three groups? So we focused on them. And then I think we all kind of agreed, it wasn't like written in blood or anything, but we agreed library, recreation, cultural center, I think, right? Those were the three that we talked about being like
The next round through, yeah,
next
that
round.
came up, that kept coming up
Yeah.
in discussions as a high intensity areas where there's a lot of, again, like with library, they're doing amazing, fascinating, great things, and even having them report to us about what are they doing and how do they do it would be interesting. So,
Yeah.
I mean, again, if somebody's interested in kind of developing this further,
And it would, I'm happy to, as I haven't done this yet. I haven't taken on a group yet. I know in the presentation, Tom, that you created, I think the questions that you all had agreed upon asking these groups are kind of already in there, right? So it'd be essentially meeting, greeting, following the question guide, collecting information, finding out more, and then kind of reporting back to this committee.
we have that information, Elena. The information that Tom put out were ones that we already did in a like a Google form. So we have the answers from those departments. And then
Okay.
what we did, like with library
All
and
of
DPW, with DPW, we developed different questions to take
Based-
that further in that area.
Got it.
So
So
that
basically,
information is available if you don't have it.
I don't, I mean, maybe I
Okay.
do. I don't think I do, but so basically the ask, just so I'm understanding, for like the library, for instance, is like taking their initial feedback, developing like follow-up questions based on their initial feedback to dig in deeper, then report back to this group. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm nodding yes. Are you
Yes,
nodding yes,
yes.
Tom? Angela, is that-
Yeah, I was just writing down an action to
I
send you
appreciate
guys.
the emphatic nodding.
Just sent you the Q&A. It wasn't that emphatic.
No,
Maybe
no,
Ruth was.
Ruth
Okay.
was.
Yeah,
You're-
My head was like this.
Well, I'm happy to take on the library. It's not really
I
taking
can
on.
give you contact people there too, Elena, if you're interested.
Yeah, I know no one there.
I'll be
so
in touch with you.
yeah, it would be a great way also just for me to meet. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
And it's always a team, so it's not just you, right? So
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
then-
definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
tag 2 or 3 buddies. So well, 3 or less, or can we do 4?
We can actually, I think we can do 4, right, Maura? I mean,
I
we're
think we can do
8, so
4.
if we've got up to
Yeah,
4,
we're
we
eight.
have not met a quorum yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, can I get back to, when I was listening, and Ruth, you had described that, okay, we've taken facts, DPW and the police. We've
Well,
asked
I
questions.
haven't done facts. I've not been part of that.
No,
I'm
not you.
DPW
I'm not you
police.
specifically. I mean, us as a
Committee. Yeah.
Right.
a committee, right? We have all the notes, which I will confess I haven't gone through and read them all, which I probably need to. You know, next step with those notes, our recommendations, are we going to come up with recommendations as a committee as a whole, or are you as different subcommittees coming up with recommendations? I guess I'm not clear.
It's what Ruth was describing earlier, using DPW as an
Right.
example, right? So
Yep,
Ruth has taken notes and shared that information with Angela, myself, and Celia.
Celia.
And so it's on us to, review that stuff, meet as a subcommittee, and get on the same page, and then bring it back to this committee.
okay.
And then
That's-
this committee can do the
that's what I
same
want.
thing. But it's just, I'd like a preliminary review before I put it out before other people.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay, that's where I was lost, because then I was gonna say, and then once this committee as a whole decides what you all agree on,
Absolutely.
what the recommendation is, I would say the next step would probably go back to Jim and Bob and flush them out, those recommendations, and then the select board, right? Just to give Jim and Bob.
We
that-
can
that
certainly have,
first
again,
draft.
this is what's valuable more is like, what is valuable review?
Yeah.
Again, sometimes it's great to have input for wording, but it's not necessarily that we would agree with all their recommendations, but I think that that's a valuable piece for us to have that input before we would go to the select board.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, sorry to backtrack there.
No, I mean, we're always trying to figure out, okay, what's the best protocol to push forward. So, okay.
And then Elena, I'll be in touch with you because also I'm very interested in library. I think they do an amazing job.
Awesome. Thanks, Ruth.
Okay.
Tom, do we have on Slack the original, the survey answers?
I can get
think
those
so.
to you. So I'll send those
just
out
want-
I
to,
think so.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. I just went
Yep.
looking on Slack. I couldn't see them, but I'm not incredibly well versed in that. So I think maybe I think I've seen some of those, not all of them. I don't know if Elena has and Jim has.
Yeah, it's a big. I can't remember if we did it in Excel or Sheets, but
it's probably in Sheets because I think we did it as a Google form. If and I'm just remembering because I think I did it, but I no longer remember.
whatever it is, it's got 22 tabs. So there's a lot of.
It sounds exciting.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
I'll
Um,
check.
Yeah, I think it's actually Excel, but regardless,
It could be. It could.
I'll
Well,
go-
I think it does get. It can get exported to Excel. So could be.
yeah. All right. Either way, we'll get that. We'll get that shared. So yeah, it's got. Yeah, it's great. I mean, people did a really good job on it. Some were more detailed than others, as you would expect with anything like this. So, all right. Anything else at all that people want to bring up? Okay. Ruth, I know you hold us pretty well to these dates. Do the dates still look good? I think, right?
And again, the asterisk means that it's not a second Tuesday because that's already taken. So it becomes the third
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Okay. All right, so February 8th, and we've got a lot of action items between now and then, which is great. All right, so with that, I would like to motion to close the meeting and adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Six
Can I clarify who said second?
Elena.
Elena.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will call the roll. Mr. Six Tiger,
Yes.
Ms. Yassine,
Yes.
Ms. Dre,
Yes.
Ms. Swope,
Yes.
Ms. Galata,
Yes.
and I am a yes. The meeting is closed. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
for-
Nice seeing
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Have a great
night.
Happy New Year. Bye.
night.